Hello everyone. With the release of Terraria on the Nintendo Switch, I felt it was as good a time as any to maybe start a series of tutorial videos for beginners at Terraria. So this should apply whether you're on PC, console, mobile, or the kind of hybrid console Nintendo Switch. So this is day one, and this is just starting out. What I'm going to do here is what I do pretty much every time I begin a Terraria map with a new character, and that is obviously to build a base. As you can see off to the right here, you have the guide. He's always going to be there when you first load the game. But right now you're kind of bare bones. You have a copper short sword, which is pretty useless. It just does this. Not a very good attack arc, a little difficult to use. And as you can see, it's easy for the slimes to jump on you and do you harm. So we're going to try to get rid of this as soon as possible. Up here on the top left, we also have a copper pickaxe. This is for mining. And then the copper axe, which is for chopping trees, which is really the first order of business because we really have to get cracking here. If you've ever played Minecraft, day one in Terraria is much the same as your first day in Minecraft. And that is really all about surviving the first night. And to do that, you really need to get a base up and running as soon as possible. You need to gather some materials. In this case, we're gathering wood. And don't worry about chopping all these trees down. You'll see that among the wood, you also get acorns. And so you can use those to plant trees in the future. So the deforestation really is not a problem. And at any rate, you're going to need a footprint for your base. So these trees have to go anyway. Just as a basic principle, the game follows certain progression paths with its ingredients. I'm using copper equipment right now, and you'll soon learn that there are better metals in the game with which to make items. Unlike Minecraft, you can't create stone tools. You can create wooden tools, but not stone tools. And so we're going to try to get beyond copper as soon as possible. As you can see, the axe also kills slimes. In a way, the attack arc is something that makes it better than the copper short sword. Anyway, I'm going to chop these last two trees down, and then once that's done, I'm going to start using the materials from the trees to build the base. And obviously, this is wood. I don't really have anything else at the moment. And so, what we're going to do is open up the inventory screen in just a second. First, I'm going to level off this ground just because I'm a little obsessive compulsive. And then once that's done, we'll get cracking on building our first base. You can see from the top of the screen it's about midday, and so we're really going to want to get this base up and running by the time night hits, because it's just safer during the day, and you'll soon see why. So let's get this leveled out. Alright, just like that. And with that done, we want to open up the inventory menu, and as you can see, it shows what you have, but also here has a crafting menu. Depending on your version of Terraria, it might look a little different. But this is what we want to build. You only need one of these. And this is really from what all your crafting begins, the workbench. So let's build it. And then once you have it, you place it. Doesn't really matter where you put it. And as you can see, when you stand in close proximity to the workbench, you have many, many more options. So let's clear the land around here just a little bit. Let's get rid of some of these slimes so we can work in peace. And once these are dead, what we're going to want to do is build some wooden walls, because in order for a structure to be considered a house, one of the things is you need walls. And so let's get on that once this green slime is killed. And you see how weak the character is. The enemies don't really get any weaker than this, and yet these slimes are causing quite a few problems for my character, but we'll soon get rid of them, so no worries. Alright, there we go. Let's walk back to the workbench, and as I said we're going to do is we're going to build these wooden walls. See here? And so we're going to want to build quite a few of them. It's actually kind of surprising how quickly you go through them. And one thing to keep in mind is you're going to want to build multiple rooms before very long, and so go ahead and be a little ambitious in how many walls you produce. I'm going to try to build a fairly large footprint on my base here before night sets in. As you can see, as I said just a moment ago, you do go through the wooden walls rather quickly. Thankfully, they're pretty cheap to build, and so they're not too hard to get in large numbers. So I'm going to try to keep my initial build maybe a little modest, maybe a little like this. And so while you may have seen on the Terraria subreddit some fairly ambitious constructions, obviously in day one it's more of a bare bones project. You're not going to really build any fancy castles or cozy houses or anything like that. Odds are you just need to build a big boxy house just to get what you need up and running before the night hits. So let's focus on that. The fancier stuff can come later, and don't worry, you can replace all of this fairly easily once you get up on your feet. So those are the walls done. Let me get rid of that slime. Alright, and what you can do with the wood is you can actually just use the wood directly to build the wall and ceiling of your house. Now obviously this isn't very attractive, it's not the prettiest thing in the world, but you know, it gets the job done, and we'll compartmentalize this into rooms in just a moment. The slime is not making my life any easier than it could be. Let's see. Alright, there he goes. One more hit. There he goes. Alright, before I get too much further in building the walls, I'm going to build a couple of doors, maybe 3 doors actually, just to make sure I have them. And as you can see, you need a wall above the door here. There's one level of wall missing, or whatever you want to call it. Outside wall, I guess you could say. So let's put that door in. That'll keep the slimes out as long as the door is closed. And then over here, we've built too many exterior walls, so we can just use the pickaxe to get rid of them. You need 3 slots for a door. So let's go ahead and put that door in. Alright. Now, what you need at this point... Let's go ahead and put this in. For NPC housing, bear in mind you'll need certain things in place. You'll need a light source. You'll need some kind of a surface or table. And then you'll need a chair. And so for now we're going to keep it fairly basic and rudimentary. Let's go ahead and put these doors in place. I'll get one more door in here, and then we'll get cracking on the NPC furniture. You'll also want these torches as your light source. Those use wood and the gels, which you get from slime. It shouldn't be too difficult to make quite a few of these torches. I like to keep them on my hotbar just for quick access. Let's put one on the outside, and then just on the interior like this to provide adequate illumination inside. Alright, there you go. And as you can see, I've got interior doors, exterior doors, I've got ceiling in place, I've got walls. What do I need? Well, as I said, I need a table for each NPC room and a chair for each NPC room. So let's go ahead and do that. There's 2 chairs. And again, don't worry about it being too fancy. We can fix this later on. Alright. I'll have to get rid of that later. So let's go ahead and get rid of the dirt floor and pretty this up just a little bit. The daylight's fading, but we should be able to get this done in time and make it look a little better before the night sets in. So without further ado, let's get cracking on that, because you'll soon see why you really want to get ahead of things before night falls. Alright, now we should be able to put our table down. There we go. And then the chair, just like so. And I'm going to do the rest of the floor in here, just so we're consistent and we have all of the basics of the housing in place. And so, as I said, it's a lot like day one in Minecraft, where you're really just focused on survival, you know, getting some basic items in place, getting some structures up, and it's really a race against time. It's actually one of my favorite parts of every time I play Terraria, and that is the race against the clock on day one. So let's put the workbench back. You're going to want an area in your base. Keep in mind you'll want an area in your base for your workbench and future crafting stations. So I like to do that in the middle of the ground floor and then have NPCs on the exterior rooms. You can obviously build up, you can build down. I've kept it very simple for now, just so you have an idea of what to do. Let me finish off the floor here. So there's nothing too intimidating about this, right? It's fairly straightforward. You see once the door's gone how quickly these slimes like to come inside. So it's very useful having a sanctuary in the form of your player base. Let's get rid of these. My guy is ridiculously weak, but don't worry, you'll soon get much stronger. Let's go ahead and lock them out. There you go. See how it blocked them off? Very useful. And if you look at the top right, your player health will slowly heal over time. So don't worry too much about these slimes doing you a bit of damage early on. Obviously, you want to pay some attention to it, make sure it doesn't get out of hand. But usually nothing to worry about as long as you pay some attention to the game. And you'll also note that the guy does have some weaponry, so he can kind of take pot shots with his bow and arrow at these slimes as you work from the safety of the interior of the home. So that's really day one. Night's just descending on this little fort. You see how dark it's getting outside of the base, out of the range of these torches. Another thing I like to do is extend the torches a little beyond the base, just so it doesn't get too dark too soon after walking away from your base. So you can just put these along the ground like so, as a little bit of I don't know, feeling of protection. I just feel a little safer. Anyway, just as an aside, you'll randomly see critters like the bunny in a gold form. Those are very rare. So once you get an item called the net, you're going to want to capture them and sell them to the merchant. I'm getting a little ahead of myself, but as fate would have it, one of those ran along. So as you get a little further along, keep an eye out for those golden critters. But back to the base, you'll see the guide has moved into the base, and eventually more NPCs will move into the base, and so we're really going to have to expand it. The other thing I said earlier, you'll see why you want a sanctuary built by the time night falls. Well, night is here, and look who's knocking at the door. It's a zombie. It's a more powerful enemy. Nighttime does feature more aggressive enemies, and if the guide behaves himself, he will not open the door, and we will be safe. But just to demonstrate, I'm going to open the door and attack, just to show you the strength of these creatures. So they take a few more hits than the slimes. Again, nothing too sophisticated this early on in the game. Obviously, they don't want to overwhelm the player with difficulty right out the gate. But these are more aggressive and stronger and more powerful creatures, so you got to keep your guard up. And you can see the use, even at this early point, of having a base and the protections it gives. So let's get rid of this zombie. It's going to take a while. This is a very weak weapon, but he'll fall eventually, and then we can carry on with some construction. It's a little tedious, isn't it? And you'll see why in just a minute when I get a more powerful weapon, why I want to race to a more powerful arsenal, because it does get very tedious early on with the kind of starter equipment. But here's just a cave. You'll probably have a cave in your game fairly close to the base, and on the surface these caves have some useful stuff in them, like these pots which you can shatter, and there drops some currency. There's another pot, and then you'll find these surface chests. The items aren't too amazing, but some of them aren't actually that bad, and even if you don't want to use them, you can sell them. This one, this is an accessory. The fact you can use vines to create ropes isn't that useful, but look, it has plus 3% damage. So what you're going to want to do when you come across accessories like this is equip them. You'll have 5 accessory slots in the game, so we're only using 1 right now, and I don't know that my weapon is necessarily good enough to really demonstrate the effect of 3% damage, but as you progress in the game, 3 and 4% damage items are going to be fairly useful. But anyway, what else is in this chest? Well, we got some rope. These will come in handy. We got some arrows. Recall potion, that's helpful early on. It sends you back to your base. So while you're exploring, you can drink one and you're back at base. You don't have to walk all the way back. We got some healing potions, again, fairly useful early on. Some free torches, I won't turn those down. And then some grenades. I'm not big on thrown weapons. Maybe you'll enjoy using them. It's just really not my cup of tea. Take note, when the chest is empty, you can use the pickaxe, and now you have a chest that you can use at your base. The grenades, I'll just demonstrate the grenade right there. You chuck it, you don't have much control over where it goes, and when it explodes, it really doesn't do anything. It doesn't destroy any tiles, and so you can't really use them for mining. And so for that reason, I either ignore them, or I sell them to the merchant, who we'll see shortly. I'm going to hide in the base right now. My character is actually quite weak, and so he's going to hide like a little chicken inside the base. These monsters do not have the capability of breaking down your door, so you're perfectly safe in this scenario. There are situations later on where they can break the door down, but for now, don't worry about it. On your regular nighttime enemy, like the zombie or the demon eye, they are totally incapable of coming in your house. So, while this number of zombies would probably overwhelm my character right now, since, as I showed you, we raced to build the structure, we're perfectly safe right now. The night's almost over. It's at least more than halfway over. You can see the moon there. And so, the night in Terraria isn't quite as long as the daytime. It's nighttime from 7:30 p.m. in the game to 4:30 a.m., so there's a bit of a bias in favor of the daytime hours, so that's good. These more difficult nighttime hours, they're not half the day at least, right? So that's a little easier. Anyway, we have a moment here to look at the guide. He can help you with crafting tips. If you click crafting, he'll take you straight to crafting, just in case you weren't aware that you could craft. He reminds the player that you can. But if you click the help button, he'll give random tips. And so if you find yourself stuck with some of the basics, feel free to check in with the guide. Anyway, that's it for right now. This is kind of day one, the bare bones basics. What have we done so far? Well, we haven't really crafted anything too crazy yet, but we did clear some land. We leveled it. We acquired lots of wood. And then we used that wood to craft the crafting table, the wooden walls, the exterior walls using the wood. We've crafted torches, doors, tables, chairs, and that's really all you need to do in day one. You can focus on the other stuff in day two, but really, every time I start Terraria, for day one, it's all about getting that base up and running. You know, on a night like this, you see all these monsters just trying to get in. You really don't want to find yourself out in the wilderness with no protection in the first night, because you are so weak. In this case, I started randomly with the annoying modifier on my copper short sword, so it's even weaker than normal, and even more useless than normal. So, you are very vulnerable at this early stage. In the next segment, I'm going to cover mining and expanding your inventory to more powerful items, but I think that's a pretty good introduction for just getting your base up and running and securing yourself in the course of the first day. So thanks for watching. If you would like to follow this character in his journey through Terraria, keep watching, and I'll continue to produce videos that show you what to do at least in the first few days of the game. Just for those of you who are a little lost on what to do, hopefully you find these helpful. So again, thanks for watching, and I will see you in the next video.